Welcome to I Love This Thing So Fricking Much, a podcast about passion. My name is Sophie Katz, and today I am joined by Rebecca Friedman, who has been a vegetarian for 11 years. Welcome to the show, Rebecca.
Hi, Sophie. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thanks for being here. So, here's how this works. Rebecca will have 3 minutes to talk about something that she loves. This can be a person, place, thing, concept, activity, anything she wants. Our only requirement is that she loves it wholeheartedly and wants to tell us why. Are you ready, Rebecca?
Let's do this.
All right. Got my timer here. Now, what do you love so freaking much?
I really do truly love being a vegetarian. Like Sophie said, I have been a vegetarian for 11 years, and it's just something that I'm really proud of. It used to be definitely a lot more difficult, but now that it's been so long, I feel like it's just incorporated into my day-to-day life. I honestly don't even think about it anymore. When I go out to meals with people who I'm not used to eating with very often, a lot of times they're like, oh, well, can we go to this restaurant? Can we go to that restaurant? I don't know if you'll be able to eat anything. And I feel like I'm pretty laid back about it. Like I can go basically anywhere and find something to eat, because being a vegetarian is actually a lot easier than people think. I definitely had a hard time at first. Just meat used to be a big part of my life, but then after a while it's so much easier to find things to eat, and I feel like I've opened my palate up so much more to foods that I may have never have tried, just because I've had to learn to like new things. I think the first question I always get when people find out I'm a vegetarian is they ask me why I became a vegetarian, and it's kind of a lame answer, but I feel like I did not have that big life-changing moment of, something crazy happened. I didn't watch Food Inc. or whatever. I was just kind of tired of eating meat and wanted to give it a try. And my mom was really mad at first because I was in 7th grade, so she was still cooking for me. And she definitely didn't think it would last, and no one thought it would last. But here I am today, 11 years later, and still haven't eaten meat. And I define my vegetarianism as no meat, fish, or gelatin. So kind of if you have to kill it to get to it, I don't eat it. And like I said, it's taken a little while, but I've gotten a lot better about cooking for myself. People kind of assume right off the bat that if you're a vegetarian, you're going to be really, really healthy. And that definitely wasn't the case for me. I, at first, kind of just subbed in pastas or starches for meat. But I've kind of learned how to make vegetables, how to cook vegetables, and where to get my protein from. I feel like most of my protein comes from eggs, tofu, beans, and nuts as well. And then I just eat way too much cheese. I could never give up cheese. So vegans, I really applaud you. But a lot of the times people do also think that just because I'm a vegetarian, I'll eat salads all the time, which a salad is a great option, and I do really enjoy salads, but I'm definitely still much more likely
Go ahead and finish your thought.
To get like a pasta dish without meat or something than to necessarily get a salad. So still guilty of that.
All right. Thank you for telling us about being a vegetarian today.
Yeah, 3 minutes goes by so quickly. Oh my gosh. And I feel like I talked so fast too.
Well, especially when you're talking about something you clearly love so much. You've done this since childhood, certainly.
Uh-huh.
You mentioned finding different sources for protein as an example. And I was curious about how you figure out your nutritional needs, because meat does have a lot of things that, at least it's commonly assumed, are difficult to find in other foods. So how do you navigate that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I first became vegetarian, I talked to my doctor about it. And they were just kind of like, the biggest thing that they were going to have to monitor was going to be my iron levels.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I go to the doctor, I just kind of get my iron checked. And luckily I've been pretty good about it. The darker greens are going to have that iron. So you want to stay close with dark green foods. And then, like I said, protein is going to be the biggest one next to iron. And that comes from, tofu, eggs, beans, things like that.
You mentioned that there were some challenges. There are some foods you had to get used to. Do you have any surprise favorites that at first were foods you didn't think you would really like that much, but now you do?
Oh my gosh, Brussels sprouts.
Oh.
Like as a kid, I feel like you're programmed to hate Brussels sprouts. And I love Brussels sprouts so much. For anyone who lives in the Orlando area, if you go to Polite Pig at Disney Springs, they have, I think, the best Brussels sprouts I've ever had.
Do you have any other favorite recipes or vegetarian foods?
I have been really into making tostadas recently. So it's like a hard taco shell, but totally flat. And I put like refried beans and corn and cojita cheese on it, and then like avocado or lime juice, things like that. But I shared my Pinterest link. I have a Pinterest board full of vegetarian food that I love to cook. So I think that's in the episode description if anyone wants to go look.
Absolutely. So you mentioned that you're wanting to become a vegetarian was just you were tired of eating meat and wanted to give it a go, as I understand it. What's kept you going since then? Because a person changes a lot from childhood through a decade to adulthood. So what's kept you going?
I just have never really had a craving to eat meat anymore. And like I said, I just don't even think about it. I'll just cook without meat. And I don't know. Like I said, I just haven't had the desire. But I will say if I ever did go back to eating meat, the first thing I would have would be a Chick-fil-A sandwich.
Speaking of meat, you want to share your opinion of, the meats that vegetarians can eat, the Impossible meats, the Beyond Burgers. What do you think of those?
Yeah, so those have gotten, like Beyond Burger and Impossible Burger have gotten really big recently. And it actually frustrates me kind of a lot. I feel like these companies have made products not geared towards vegetarians, but instead they're geared towards meat eaters who just don't want to eat meat. And then they happen to be good for vegetarians. So a ton of restaurants out there, instead of offering like actual vegetarian dishes, they're kind of just subbing in the Beyond Burger and things like that. And, as a vegetarian, I don't eat meat because I don't like meat. So I don't need something that's going to pretend to be meat and taste like meat. So it's kind of been very frustrating lately because I feel like the options that I like have been decreasing at restaurants. Like I would much rather have a black bean burger than a Beyond Burger. And you're finding that a lot of places aren't offering those as much anymore.
That is a side effect that I hadn't considered, but I'm linking it in my mind to, like, for example, if you have like turkey bacon, like I keep kosher as best as I can. And when I look at things like turkey bacon, I think, well, what's the point of like pretending that I'm eating bacon, even if I'm literally not? Like, what's the point of faking it?
Exactly. Like for people who never eat meat, we don't necessarily, I don't want to speak on behalf of all vegetarians. Some people may like Beyond Burger, but me personally, like I just don't need something that's going to taste like meat. I want the vegetables. It's something that I feel very passionate against is this Beyond Burger and Impossible Burger trend that's happening.
Do you have any advice for people who might be interested in becoming a vegetarian but aren't really sure how to start?
Yeah, it's like I said, it can be difficult at first, but once you kind of get into the swing of things, it's so much easier than people think. So I would start kind of a little bit at a time, try like a meatless Monday, or when you go out to restaurants, get a dish that's not centered around meat, that you can either, remove the meat or just a dish that doesn't have meat in general. So just start a little at a time and keep adding on and building, or, like cut out just red meat and then cut out seafood and then, cut out chicken, things like that. You don't need to dive right in. You can take baby steps.
And as you've mentioned, there's lots of different ways to be a vegetarian. Your particular list of foods that you will or won't eat are different than other vegetarians.
Exactly. You can be a pescatarian where you do still eat fish, or you can still eat gelatin. Gelatin it's really found in like marshmallows or things that are, I guess, a gelatinous texture. So that's not even really meat. I know there are a lot of vegetarians that do still eat gelatin.
Is there anything that you don't like about being a vegetarian? And if so, how do you handle that?
Well, definitely the Beyond Burger situation has been frustrating, like I said. But other than that, I guess people sometimes make assumptions about me when they find out I'm a vegetarian. Either like I'm out to save the world or I'm going to convert everyone around me into being a vegetarian, which just isn't necessarily true. I don't mind sitting at a table where everyone else is eating a nice big steak and I'm having, my rice and beans or whatever. So I guess just kind of the assumptions, but that's going to happen, really with anything.
It sounds like being a vegetarian is something that's special for you, that it's something that you do for you. It's not necessarily, a save the world mission.
Exactly. And that's kind of what I tell people. I tell them that I'm not a save the world vegetarian. I'm just a vegetarian for myself. So you got it exactly.
Rebecca, thank you so much for telling us about something you love today.
Thank you so much for interviewing me. This was so much fun.
It really was. And thank you, our listeners, for tuning in today. If you would like to learn more about being a vegetarian or our guest Rebecca, you can find her Pinterest board of vegetarian recipes in the episode description. And don't forget to use the hashtag #LoveThisThingCast to tell us about the things you love. I Love This Thing So Freaking Much is a production of Through the Window Media. This episode was directed by Sophie A. Katz and edited by Melissa Block. You can find us at Through the Window on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or Tumblr. That is THROU, the window, at all the social media sites. Be good to yourself, be kind to each other, and you'll hear from us again soon.